All right, we are going live. Everyone give me 1 second while I go live on Instagram. There we go. And we should be good to go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Start the Week with Spencer. This is our weekly webinar here at Doman International where parents join from around the world and ask their questions about their children. Now, if this is your first time coming to this webinar, you can ask a question about the Doman Method, about children with special needs, about early childhood education, questions about parenting, and I will get to your questions in the order that I receive them. This webinar is for 45 minutes. I do recommend that all of you get your questions in early because sometimes I get all the questions at the end of the session and I'm not able to answer all of them and I feel badly. So, get your questions in as soon as possible and I'll take them in order. A couple of quick announcements while I'm waiting for your questions. So, first of all, Doman International has a ton of trips planned for the next 6 months. So I won't give you all the dates because it would take too long, but you can inquire about the dates. But let me just kind of quickly give you an idea of the trips that our team is going on, and we're seeing families around the world in different locations. So we see families all year round here in Philadelphia, where our headquarters are. In June, we're going to be seeing families in California. Actually, before June, sorry. In April, we're going to be seeing families in our European center in Pisa, Italy. In May, we're going to be seeing families in New Delhi, India, and Bangalore, India. In June, we're going to be seeing families in California, which is where we see our families from the West Coast of the United States. And we're also going to be seeing families in Australia and New Zealand. And then after that, at the end of September, we're going to be seeing families in Serbia and Croatia. We are seeing families all year round in Philadelphia at our headquarters, in the Philippines, in Russia, where we have different staff based. So hopefully I mentioned all the places. Oh, and one final announcement. We've just added this. We are seeing families in August in Miami, Florida. So we have chosen Miami not just because we have a number of Floridian families, but also because it's an easy location for families from around Latin America to access. So August 21st, 22nd, and 23rd, we are doing appointments in Miami. So if you're interested in those, let us know because we have a limited number of places available. Okay, let me see if we have any questions yet. All right, I have a question from Shaista who says, my child is 3 years old. Can quantity cards and the reading program flashcards still be effective? So Shaista, I'm smiling because I recently did a video answering this very question over at Doman Learning, right? So this page is Doman International's page, which is our organization focused on helping families with children with special needs and developmental delays. And we teach families with children with special needs how to speed up the development of their kids with neuroplasticity. But we also have Doman Learning, which is our sister company, which is created to help parents of all children teach their children to read and do math before their school age. And so I'm smiling because at Doman Learning, I did this whole video about this very question. I get this question basically every week. My child is 3 years old. Is it too late? Or sometimes it's 4 years old or 5 years old, but it's all around the same topic, the same question. And it's definitely not too late. 3 years old is a great time to start teaching your child math and reading. And it's a very effective time to teach. My nephew, who I got a video over the weekend, my nephew who's 4, my sister-in-law sent me a video of him, reading off all of the words that he's seeing in his reading program. And he was very, very proud, showing off that he can read these words. So, this is a great age to get started. And 3 and 4 year olds are great because they are they're very active and they're very interactive. They tell you, what they like and what they don't like. When parents start our reading and math programs with babies, sometimes parents will say to me, because my baby doesn't talk yet, I don't know what my child's interests are. But with a 3 or a 4-year-old, you don't have to, worry about that. They'll tell you what they're interested in. And so they'll say, oh yeah, I like those words about animals and I like cars, but I'm not interested in, another category. And, that's fine. You pursue your child's interests, whatever they are. So Shaista, you're starting at the perfect time. I definitely recommend that you check out domanlearning.com and you see the courses and materials that we have there for parents. We've got a reading before school course and a math before school course where you can learn about how to implement the Doman method with your child and also get all the materials that you need to start those programs. Just to let you know, if you buy anything at Doman Learning, if you use the promo code Spencer10, so SPENCER, Spencer10, you get 10% off, just to let you know. Okay. I have another question here. So Anjali is following up on that question saying, my daughter is 3 years old as well. How can we adjust the program according, and Anjali, your question got cut off, but it says, how can we adjust the program accordingly? So actually you don't really have to adjust the program because the program itself, the repetition of single words, for example, we teach that when you start with a reading or a math program, you're going to teach those sight words 3 times a day for 5 days. We recommend that for a child who's 1 year old or 3 years old, right? We recommend that because we have found that's a good frequency, both in terms of helping a child learn the materials, but also it's not too much that it will bore a child. Now, some children, it's too much, but for the majority of children, it's not. And so you don't actually have to adjust the program for a 3-year-old. It's already created for a 3-year-old. So again, Anjali, I'd say the same thing to you that I said to Shaista. I think this is a great time for you to get started. Adjustments only need to be made if you're finding your child has a lack of responsiveness or interest in the program. Then we have to make adjustments for a child. The most common adjustment we have to make is we need to reduce the frequency sometimes that we are showing the materials. So for example, if a kid is seeing a category of words 3 times in a day, and the parent is finding the child is not focused or interested in the sessions, usually the best thing to do is reduce the number of times, right? So instead of doing 3 times in a day, you do 2 times. Or maybe instead of 2 times a day, you do it 1 time. And because usually when children are showing a lack of interest, it's usually because they're communicating to you. They may not be doing it with their words, but they're doing it with their interest. They're communicating to you that you're showing it to them too many times. Okay. And so for those children, you want to start reducing the number of sessions of showing the materials. And then you'll usually start to see them perk up and be interested. One of the most common things I will get from parents when they are, and these are specifically parents who are doing our reading or math program and finding their child isn't very interested. I'll usually say to the parents, was your child interested when you first started the program, when you first started to show the first cards? And they'll say, oh yeah. Like I pulled out the reading cards and he loved them. And then it was just funny. After a week or 2, he wasn't interested anymore. And why would a child do that? It's usually because it's too many times, right? And the child, I was talking to a family recently. The family, I met them in Serbia, excuse me, and they actually brought their child in to be evaluated by our team because this child has some developmental delays. And I evaluated the girl who was 5 years old, and the girl demonstrated she could read her word cards. And the parents were very surprised because they said, she wasn't showing interest when we showed her the cards. We had no idea she was actually learning to read them all along. And the parents said, So I asked the parents, "Oh, she's not interested. Did she like it when you started?" And they went, "Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. She loved it when we started, but after a couple of weeks, she was bored." And then I said, "Oh, were you showing the cards 3 times a day like we recommended?" And they said, "Oh, no, we were teaching them 5 times a day." So they were actually doing more than the recommended amount, which sometimes happens. They got a little confused with the frequency. And so the child, after a few weeks, was like, "Nope, this is too much," and went on strike. So yeah, what I say to parents is, if you're starting to see your child get bored, reduce the frequency, show the materials less times, and you'll see more interest from your kid. All right, we have a lot of questions coming in. Priyanka says, "My daughter is 2 years old and we are meeting your team in Delhi for an evaluation." That's great, Priyanka. I'm gonna be in Delhi in May with my colleagues Jagjit Kaur, who's the regional director of India, and with Dr. Aravind Bagade, who's our director of nutrition. So I really look forward to meeting you. I wanted to know that all the doctors recommend physiotherapy for her cerebral palsy, but what I wanted to know, once we are on the program, do we need to continue with the physiotherapist, or can we just do the Doman method at home instead? So good question, Priyanka. So, when a family comes for an appointment at Doman International, we teach them 4 different programs for their child. Now, these programs are general groupings. In one of these programs, there might be various techniques, but there are 4 different meetings that the family has with our staff. The first is a mobility program meeting, which is getting to your question. In that mobility program, whether a child has cerebral palsy or some other diagnosis, we will teach the family the activities and techniques that they need to do with their child to help that child develop in their mobility. So in this case, if we're talking about a child who might have limited mobility, who cannot walk, we would teach a program for, okay, how do we get your child moving and on the path to walking? So no, it would not be necessary to continue with some other kind of outside, conventional therapy, because we would provide you with the program that your child needs to get moving. And listen, for most of the time, I don't want to speak in blanket generalizations, but most of the time, when families come to us who have been doing physiotherapy with a child with brain injury, and I want to make this clear, I don't have an issue with physiotherapy, for example, for recovery after surgery. Physiotherapy is very important after bodily injuries, after surgery. Physiotherapy is incredibly important. But the problem is, for brain injury, many physiotherapy, or what we call physical therapy in the United States, many of those techniques don't help rehabilitate the brain. And so they don't actually help the child gain their mobility. Keep in mind, my grandfather, Glenn Doman, was a physical therapist by training, and he found this isn't helping my patients get better, and that's why he ended up, beginning his lifelong mission of finding techniques and programs that can help children with special needs. And many parents, the parents here who are interested in our early childhood education programs, the Doman Method programs for early reading and math, may not realize my grandfather actually started his work with children with special needs. And he actually developed all of these programs, reading, math, for those children. And when he found it worked with them, he said, well, we can do this with all children, and ended up using, writing his books, How to Teach Your Baby to Read, How to Teach Your Baby Math, and so on. And they were used around the world they have been used by millions of parents around the world. So Priyanka, getting back to your question, yeah, we will teach you exactly what your child needs from a physical development standpoint, and it won't be necessary to continue on with those therapies. And then along with a mobility program for your child, we'll also teach you a cognitive development program. So we'll talk about, how do you develop a child's intelligence, their ability to communicate, speech, sensory abilities. We will teach you a nutrition program. So we'll talk about diet and supplements. And then fourth, we will teach you the Doman Method oxygenation program, which can be very helpful for kids like your child, because it can help reduce spasticity, improve mobility, improve physical stamina, improve speech, and so on. So for everyone who's joining the session late, I'm just answering a question about what kind of program do we teach at an appointment to a family, and does a family have to continue with outside therapies for a child with special needs? Okay. I have a lot of questions coming in on Instagram. Anyone who's watching me right now on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to post questions as well. But right now, they're all coming in on Instagram. All right. Anjali says, I did the Doman learning program until the 4th month, and then I took a break. So now I am showing words that are in the homemade books. I make my own couplets and sentences using them and showing books. Is that okay? Yeah, Anjali, that's fine. Now, you said you used the Doman learning materials until the 4th month. Are you aware that there are homemade books in the 4th, 5th, and 6th month of those materials? So if you go to the 4th, 5th, and 6th month folders, there are homemade books there. I just wanted you to know that. And there are 24 books in total. And then there are sentences in the months, I think 3, 4, 5, and 6 as well. But even if you decided not to continue with the materials, what you're doing is absolutely fine. Using homemade books, showing the words that are going to be in the homemade books is a great idea. And then, making couplets and sentences are fine as well. Usually, after about a month of showing couplets, we will transfer over just to doing sentences, and we'll kind of stop couplets, because couplets are word pairs, right? Like red apple, green, pear, things like that. Children often start to get bored of them, and sentences are a lot more interesting, right? It's a lot more interesting to say, I eat pizza, than green apple. And so many children respond a lot more favorably to the sentences. And so the couplets are just a bridge, right? To teach a child that, okay, you've already learned to read words with the Doman method. Now we can put them together in couplets. But it's just a bridge. And once the child has learned, we can put words together, it's a lot more interesting to go to sentences, which are 3 or more words. Anjali is saying, also, can well kids come to for an evaluation? How might it help them? So Anjali, right now we don't provide live evaluations for parents of well children, but Doman Learning provides consultations, remote consultations for parents of well children. So if parents want like a specific educational program developed for their child, they want a reading or math or encyclopedic knowledge program created for their kid, they can go to Doman Learning and get a remote consultation, and one of our staff will teach it to them. And the reason why we don't do live sessions right now for parents of well children is just need. The parents of children with special needs just need that live evaluation with us, and we only have a limited number of Doman Method experts to do that. So the remote consultations are the best option for parents who want them. So if you go to domanlearning.com, you'll see information there about consultations. You can inquire about them, and we'll send you information about it. Oh, wow, Anjali, this is a good question. I don't know if I've ever been asked this question publicly before. I've been asked this question privately many, many times. And so the question is, what age gap would you suggest between two siblings? Okay, this is so I think, Anjali, even before I answer the question, I have to, okay, let me just start out by saying, I don't think that there is a perfect or a problematic age gap between siblings, okay? In the sense that we could, there are benefits to having two children that are close together in age, and there are challenges that come with having two children close together in age. There are benefits to having children who are far apart in age, and there are challenges. What I can say from personal experience is that I grew up in a family where me and my 3 siblings were all 4 to 5 years apart. This was not planned by my parents. It just kind of happened by accident. It happened naturally. So my older brother, Marlo, is 4 years older than me. I'm 5 years older than my sister, Morgan. Morgan is 4 years older than my brother, Noah. So that's how we happen. And that meant that there's a 14-year age gap between my oldest brother, Marlo, and my youngest brother, Noah. I have observed growing up in a family with 4 kids with 4 to 5 years apart that it's been amazing. I feel like, a lot of parents worry, if I don't have my children close together, they'll be far apart in age and they won't be close. That has not been my experience at all. And not only has it not been my experience in my family, it hasn't been the experience in the other families I've observed as well. I often find when there's several years of age gap between children, it means when the baby comes around, right, the older child is now older and mature enough to help parents with the arrival of the baby, right? Because if a child is maybe, let's say, 4, 5, 6 years old when a baby arrives, they're now capable enough to actually help with the baby. They can grab a diaper to help with the diaper change. They can, if they're 5 or 6 years old, maybe they can read to the baby, right? So they can tell stories to the baby. So an older child can do a lot to interact with the younger child and care for the younger child. And that's something that a 2-year-old sibling or an 18-month-old sibling can't really do. And I have found that creates a very special relationship between the older sibling and the younger sibling. Okay. And that was my experience growing up. I'm very close to my siblings. And I feel like that was a big part of it. Each older kid could help with the raising of the younger child. Now, there are also steps that my parents took, which I think were very wise, that helped the older siblings be prepared for the younger siblings. And I'm happy to get into that conversation. It's a little bit of a separate topic. But that being said, I think that, sometimes parents will say, oh, I've got a 7-year-old and we want to have another child, but is that too big an age gap? No, it's not. In fact, you'll find that the older sibling will be even more helpful. And usually, because they're more mature, they're more caring and they're more grateful to have a younger sibling. So again, I don't want to say that you should organize things in that way. I think you should have a child when you want to have a child, but I don't feel like there's any problematic age gap for kids. I hope that's helpful. Okay, let's see what other questions we have here. While I'm waiting for other questions to come in, let's talk a little bit about tips for if you have older children and you have you have a baby arriving. How can you help prepare a child for the arrival of a sibling and minimize one of the biggest concerns that parents have, which is jealousy, right? Parents are very often worried about a baby arriving and an older sibling being jealous. And, we have for many years been coaching families who have babies who arrive, sometimes with special needs, sometimes not. And we have found that there are certain skills, certain techniques that parents can implement that reduce or sometimes completely eliminate jealousy in older siblings. The first thing that parents can do to eliminate jealousy is to prepare the older child for the arrival of the baby. And that means talking to the child about what the experience is going to be like when the baby arrives, right? Talking about, what it's going to be like, what kind of needs the baby has, and also how the older sibling can help with the arrival of the baby. Okay. Meaning, when we bring the baby home, we're going to have to change the baby's diapers, right? And you can help with that. Or, we're going to have to, pick out clothes every morning for the baby. We're going to need your help with that. And so it's not just about explaining to the child what's going to happen, but giving the older sibling specific jobs and responsibilities in the care of the baby is very, very important. Because having that older sibling interacting with the baby is very important to create a bond and a connection between the two of them. But more importantly, the older sibling has to feel like they're in a caring role for the baby, right? And this is important because when a baby arrives, why do older children often feel jealousy when a baby arrives? It's because they feel like they're being displaced, right? They felt like they were the baby of the family. They were getting all the attention. And now this baby is arriving and this baby's going to get all the attention. And so that creates jealousy, right? So how do you remove that problem? You remove it by giving the child a promotion. You say to the older sibling, we've got a baby coming, but you're going to be the best big brother in the world, right? And mom and dad are not going to be able to survive without big brother's help. Like you're going to be such a big help. I don't know how we're going to do this without you. So you tell that to the sibling. And so the sibling realizes, whoa, okay, the arrival of this baby is a good thing for me, right? I'm not getting displaced. I'm getting promoted, right? He's the baby now. I'm the big kid. Right. And that's what a child needs to know for them to feel confident with the arrival of the baby. Now, when the baby arrives, you need to have specific jobs for the child when the baby arrives. So for example, it's like you are in charge of getting the diaper when the diaper is changed, right? If you're doing a Doman baby program with your child and let's say you're doing tactile integration, which is one of the things we do with babies, you say to your older child, okay, you're going to be in charge of, picking out the textures when we do the tactile stimulation for the baby. Or you're going to be in charge of reading to the baby in the evening, things like that. And so the older sibling, now they have specific big brother, big sister jobs, and it'll make them feel special because it is special, and it's a big promotion, right? So I highly recommend that for when you have a younger sibling arriving. I recommend writing up the jobs, putting them up in the house. You can even practice those jobs before the baby arrives. Say like, all right, let's practice a diaper change. Okay, it's time for a diaper. Can you go and grab one? And you have the 4-year-old run and get the diaper for you. And you say, wow, that was so fast. That was 30 seconds. You're amazing. No one can get a diaper as well as you. I always recommend doing that. You say, I can't trust anyone else with this job except for you. And so when that baby arrives, the sibling at that point is ready. They're excited and they're proud, and that's what you want. You don't want jealousy. Hope that's helpful. All right, everyone, we've got 15 more minutes for questions. Whether you're joining me on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, go ahead and start typing your questions in, and I'll get to them in order. Anjali says, I'm using the Doman learning homemade books as well as ones made by me. Great. And Anjali, just to let you know, once you've used all the Doman learning materials, there's something else called the Doman Books course. A lot of people don't even know it's there at Doman Learning because, they're more focused on the reading and the math course. But there's something called the Doman Books course, which has 48 additional homemade books that you can get after the Doman course, the reading course. Yeah, the Doman Books course has 48 books, and it also has like 10 to 20 single words for every homemade book in the materials. So, and the great thing about the homemade books there, I wrote them with Monique, a Doman mom, and the text, the print size of those books month by month gets smaller and smaller, but the content gets slowly more and more sophisticated. So you have this really nice transition from month to month of sophistication with the homemade books. So I recommend the Doman Books course. All right. I finally got a question in on Facebook from Katie. Katie says, my child is 6 years old with autism and is having issues with reading. Some days he can read family words, but next day he can't. I am not sure what is happening. Do you think your reading program can help? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Katie. So, the way our reading program has been created, it's really ideal for kids with autism. Why? Because the sessions are very short, right? So even if a child doesn't want to sit for long sessions, they enjoy these sessions because they're 5 to 10 seconds long. And then the second thing is they are the words are shown with repetition, right? So we show a set of words. Usually the starter program we'll show a category of related words. So you mentioned family words. So let's say you're showing the 5 words of like names of family members: mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, right? Something like that. You would show those 3 times a day, 3 different times of the day for 5 days. And so that's 15 showings in total. And for most children, that is enough repetition that they will learn those words. And I think, Katie, the most important thing here is quantity, right? You're saying that some days he can read and some days he doesn't seem to recognize those words. And that's probably just a result of not enough consistency with the program and not showing him enough words. Okay. What we do with the Doman method is we don't just teach words with a lot of frequency. We teach the child to read many words. Because the problem is if you just focus on the same words again and again, like let's say you just focused for a month on just showing the names of family members, a lot of kids start to get bored because they're like, all right, I've been looking at these same words for a month, and so that's why another reason why we stop showing a group of words after 5 days, and then we'll move on to new materials. We'll bring in more words. And what we find is as children start to recognize more and more words, they start to intuit the laws of reading. Okay. So let me give you an example of this, right? So let's say you learn how to read the word mom, and later in another category, you learn the word mouse. And then in another category, you learn moose. After some of those words, you're going to figure out, you know what? The letter M, mom, moose, mouth, it makes a M sound. So what happens is the child starts to intuit the laws that govern the language, and they start to learn new words much faster, right? So then when you come around to teaching the word math, they're like, yeah, okay, got it. All of a sudden, something that used to take them 5 days to learn how to read it only takes them 1 day to learn how to read. So Katie, I have a couple of recommendations for you. The first is, I'm not sure if you can see, wrong shoulder. I'm not sure if you, sorry, because I'm mirror image here, I lean to the wrong side. I'm not sure if you can see here behind me, I have the cover of one of our books. It's called Answering Autism. The subtitle is The Doman Method Plan for Autism, ADD, and Other Neurodevelopmental Delays. I wrote this book, I keep pointing the wrong side. I wrote this book with my dad, Douglas, and it's all about how to implement the Doman Method at home with a child with an autism diagnosis. And so I highly recommend that you get that book. You can get it on Amazon. It's available as a hardcover, also as an ebook, and now as an audiobook. So I recommend that book for you. And then also I recommend you've probably seen our website, domaninternational.org. If you haven't, I recommend you check it out. And I recommend, if you go to domaninternational.org, you'll see that there's a contact page. I recommend you fill out the contact page. And you set up a call with Colleen Hudson, who is our director of our representatives, and she'll just jump on a quick call with you, 20-minute call, and kind of, give you the lay of the land of the Doman Method, like what our, options are for parents, how parents can learn more about how to help their kid. Because I think for it sounds like your child's a great candidate for the program. And so I highly, highly recommend that. Out of interest, Katie, what country do you live in? Are you in the US or are you in another part of the world? All right. Let's see. Who else has a question? Anjali says, in the Doman book, it says that for older children, we have to review books more often, the homemade books. So reviewing the books regularly and not single words helps. Yeah, so Anjali, I think that recommendation is more of a general recommendation where we say that, sometimes as children get older, they actually need more repetition and frequency. But in terms of reviewing the books regularly, the real reason why we say to you after 5 days, stop showing the sight words, but you can keep showing homemade books, is that many children love looking at homemade books many, many times. Many children are happy to look at a book for a month, 2 months, because it's a story, it's got pictures. But with sight words, the kid is like, I get it after a few days. They're like, why do I have to keep looking at these words? So actually, that's the real reason why books can be kept around a lot longer than words. It's not actually so much the need to provide the child with a lot of repetition with books. The great thing about books is that it teaches children why you need to learn how to read. You see, sometimes parents will start the Doman method, but they just do single words month after month after month. And the child starts out enjoying the program. And after a few months, the child is not as interested. And the parents are wondering why. And it's because if you're only showing sight words over and over and over again, at a certain point, the child's like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we only looking at words all the time? Now, for us adults, it's obvious we need to read words so we can read books. But for a young child, that's not necessarily that obvious. And so when a child is reading books, they start to realize, oh, this is why I'm looking at all the words. Seeing the words helps me read books. So that's, why homemade books are such an important part of the Doman method. Sight words are the first step, but homemade books are kind of the soul of the program. Oh, Katie's in Texas. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah, Katie, definitely. I recommend going to Doman International's website, domaninternational.org. And sorry, I'm just typing the website here in the comments so people can see it. Yeah, I recommend going to the website and filling out the contact page, and Colleen will get back to you. I also want to say the Answering Autism book is available now in other languages. It's available in Spanish and Italian. The Spanish title is Respondiendo al Autismo. All right. All right, Khalud is asking, my boy is 3 years old. Can I teach him math using the Doman method? Yeah, the answer is absolutely, Khalud. So you can, I have my grandfather's book here. I'm just going to grab it to show it to you. So Khalud, you might have already read this book, but my grandfather wrote the book, How to Teach Your Baby Math. This book has been used by, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of parents around the world to teach their children math. A lot of people actually don't realize that's actually me on the front cover with my mom, Rosalind. So absolutely, you can teach your child math. And then, Khalud, if you want to, learn more about the math program, and if you want to see some of the updates that I've added over the last few years, if you go to the Doman Learning's website, you can see that we've created a course called the Math Before School course. The Math Before School course, I actually have divided into, I just put the website on the screen, domanlearning.com. At domanlearning.com, we have a reading before school course, which is all about our reading program. I teach parents how to teach using the Doman materials, and we actually provide the materials themselves. But we also have a course called Math Before School, using the Doman Method to teach your child math before age 6. And in that course, the math course, I actually have 2 different modules, one for children under 2.5 years of age and another module for children over 2.5 years of age. And the module for children over 2.5 is not in my grandfather's writings. It's not in his book. That is a program that we have created over the last 5 to 10 years to really have even better results with children 2 years and up, because we were finding that some children were not responding to the math program with as much effectiveness or enjoyment as we wanted. And so we created a new program which has better results for kids over 2. Hope that makes sense. All right. Oh, Anjali says, thank you so much again. So many doubts cleared. Wonderful. That's why we're here. All right, everyone. I think I have time for one more question. So it'll just be a race to see who gets it in first. Type in your last question and then we'll be done for the day. I'll give it about a minute. Just so, while I'm waiting for the last question, the Doman Method has 4 new books that have been written in the last 2 years. And 2 you can see behind me. This one is called Answering Autism, which is specifically for parents with children with autism and ADD. Then we have this book, which is called The Doman Method from Special Needs to Wellness, which is basically for any child with any kind of special need diagnosis or developmental delay. So those are our 2 kind of main books that we've written over the last 2 years. But we also have the Doman Cookbook. So for anyone who wants to understand the guidelines for better nutrition for children, the Doman Cookbook is a great resource, and it has 150 different recipes which are healthy for your child. I highly recommend it. And then last but not least, for any families, and there was one parent inquired earlier in the session about children with cerebral palsy. If you have a child who is unable to walk yet, my dad, Douglas, wrote a book that was published earlier this year called From Immobility to Walking. You can find it on Amazon. If you search From Immobility to Walking, Douglas Doman, you'll find it. And he gives guidelines in that book on how to bring a child from being unable to move all the way to walking. So I hope that's helpful. All right, everyone, we are all out of time. Thanks to everyone for joining. Have a great rest of your day. And like I said, if you have any questions that come up, you can always send us a message on Instagram or Facebook, and one of our representatives will respond to you as soon as possible. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.